Clap.
No, just. Hi, this is Lori.
This is Peter.
This is Hamilton.
And this is Ryan.
And we're with Heroes Character Rental Service or Action Heroes LA, whichever you choose. And we're here to review WandaVision, the new Marvel TV series. Well, not so new now because it's been out and it's completed its first season. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So who wants to go? Was anybody planning on watching this series when it was first announced? That's what I want to know.
I actually started watching it and I couldn't get past the first episode for maybe I mean, not that I couldn't get past it, but I just kind of put it on the back burner and just never got back around to it until you guys started watching it. So yeah, I thought it was good. It looked good. I'm a Marvel Comics fan or whatever, but yeah, I like I said, the first episode kind of threw a curveball at everyone. First few episodes, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, I know with me, I looked at the first two episodes and thought it was the worst thing I had ever seen. And I told Lori about it, and she said, you got to keep watching. And I did, and oh my goodness, it carried me all the way through the end.
Yeah, I had not really. I was maybe gonna watch it. I thought I was gonna check it out. I couldn't. It's like what could possibly be interesting about Wanda and Vision? A show about Wanda and Vision, who are kind of like they're in the oh, I got text messages coming through. They're in the Avengers Endgame, and they have pretty big roles in that, but they're not like the major heroes of Marvel Universe. It's like, what could they possibly do that would be at all interesting? And then I heard they're doing this kind of sitcom thing that, a lot of positive reviews were coming out. I was like, yeah, I'll check it out, but I'm not going to drop everything. And weeks had passed before I even tried it out. And then a friend of mine was like, have you watched WandaVision yet? And I'm like, no. And she's like, oh, it's so good. I'm like, okay, if you're saying this is good, this is something I got to check out. So, and that's when I started watching. And me being, I love old sitcoms. I love the Dick Van Dyke Show. It was one of my all-time favorites. So when they had in the first episode, it's like they have the Dick Van Dyke Show set. They're doing that show. I was like, okay, I kind of appreciate this. And some of the other elements. So it was enough to kind of carry me on. It's like, okay, the sitcom angle. I didn't know where they were going with it, or why they were doing it, but that kind of did hook me in the beginning. So right. How about you, Ryan? Where were you on the WandaVision?
Yeah, well, when it was first announced, I didn't know what to make of it, as I heard more about what the show was going to be about leading up to its premiere. That they were going to be looking at different sitcoms throughout the ages. That kind of piqued my interest, along with the question of how is Vision even alive when we saw him die in Infinity War, if I remember correctly. So that had kind of piqued my interest. So from the minute it debuted, I was on board, checking out the first couple of episodes. And every week, every Friday, I was there to check out the latest episode. And I think by the time it got to the fourth episode, I remember, I think it was, which is when they stepped away from the sitcom world, from Wanda's world, to the outside world. That was when it sort of threw me for a loop. And then I think it really started getting interesting because we were going in a whole new different direction. And I think as I step back and think of the series overall, I give Marvel credit for trying to do something new and fresh in an era where there's often much criticism that Hollywood is just recycling old ideas, doing more sequels, or reviving old franchises, where this was a brand new idea that they were bringing to the fore. I give Marvel a lot of credit for that, and I very much enjoyed the ride.
Word.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like they're doing something new by kind of like taking old sitcoms.
Yeah.
reformatting them into the and kind of Frankensteining. Well, I won't say Frankenstein. Kind of merging them into the movie comic book world, which was that's what you do. You take influences from the past, you put your own spin on them, and that's how you create something new and unique and different. So yeah, I was. So did you start watching like at when they first came out, Ryan? Or
Yeah.
okay, so you were on board.
When it debuted. Yeah, I was on board from day one.
Yeah, I had to say, I just had fun with the sitcom format and just how accurately they were portraying them. Now, Peter, you had a trouble with the humor. You thought they were doing a terrible job.
I did. Because, I came up with the Dick Van Dyke Show, Lucy Show, stuff like that. I Love Lucy. And the very first one was, to me, a combo of Dick Van Dyke and I Love Lucy.
Right.
And they did a terrible job. Just terrible. Unbelievably bad. And I kept saying, why does Vision not know this? Why is Wanda doing that? What's going on? And after the second show, I said, okay, that's it. I'm done. But thanks to you, Lori,
I know.
I went back and I watched it again, and I watched it with a different thought.
That's like, don't compare them like they're trying to do that sitcom, that they're paying homage to those. You have to like appreciate it for the detail that they're doing. And they did such amazing detail. Even the style of humor, like throughout that match, like you had the 70s, you had the Bewitched Brady Bunch. They matched that. 80s was Family Ties. 90s, they had Full House, which, that meta reference with Elizabeth Olsen and her sister show. And I think Malcolm in the Middle was the other show that they matched up. And then when they got to the, like the present day, like single camera, no audience sitcoms like Modern Family and The Office and just everything. I just was so like, spot on, just like how the humor is done in those different eras of comedy of sitcoms was pretty. I was so impressed with that, and particularly with Elizabeth Olsen. Like, I wasn't expecting her to be like some great thespian or anything, but she did the comedy of all those really well, and I was really taken with that. How about you, Ham? What you know?
I didn't. I wouldn't say that I thought it was horrible, Peter. I kind of understood what they were doing. I just wasn't in the mood for a lot of it at the beginning. Like I thought I liked the way they did the I Love Lucy and all of that. I thought that was funny and cool. And then as it progressed, it got a little more surreal. But I like they had that thing they were like in the house, like the Brady style house with I think it was like a goose or something like that. And
that's right, the stork.
The stork? Yeah. That was. I understood they were. It was like not supposed to be like the original, but you just had to be in the right mood to watch that. I think, or at least I did.
Yeah.
I found myself.
They were. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Ham. I didn't mean to. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I found myself by the third episode. I was like, man, when are they gonna get into the story?
Well, see, they were dropping little moments. Like you said, it was getting more and more surreal. They were like, what? Even they were questioning. It was like, what is going on here in this? Why are we, I don't quite understand what is happening in this world. These are our lives, kind of thing.
Like I knew they were going to get to the story eventually. And when they did, it was cool because I kind of like, I realized, okay, I'm okay now. Like, I was at a point where I was like, man, if they go another episode with this TV stuff, I don't know I can't keep watching this stuff. It's getting more outrageous for me. But like the thing about Marvel in particular, I always expect Marvel productions to be really good. We watched, you and Peter and I watched the the
Falcon and Winter Soldier last night.
Snowman last night, and I thought the first episode was excellent. But I mean, I always expect Marvel to be really good. That's the one thing about Disney is that they have a real strength in Marvel, and I think this show really brings that home. That like I was saying last night, the Falcon and the Snowman is totally different from WandaVision.
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's an easy mistake to make, though, because they had that old movie, right?
Right, but I like that. I like that they're all different. I mean, they're not alike. I like the fact that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is really action.
Yeah, it's a completely different tone than this show, and that they even thought of this show and to do it in the Marvel universe is just amazing to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's I wanted to bring up because for me they're dropping little hints at some point. It didn't take me long to I think this is in her head. Because like I said, you said Vision is dead. We know Vision is dead. So, and I'm like, I started guessing, it's like, okay, she's probably the trauma. I started thinking it might be a trauma thing, and this is her imagination that she's coming up. So when like episode 4 is the episode, you got to stick it out to that episode, because then you see that becomes a revelation. Spoiler alert! That she's created this world, and I think it's interesting. I was reading some of the reactions of people on Twitter, people particularly who've suffered like traumatic losses in their lives, and how accurate this show was to portraying like the emotional journey you go on. For this show to take that character and really like delve into her pain, her loss, how she would suffer, what ways people suffer. So it's kind of like it became a cultural touchstone because of that. It like just really hit on trauma and grief for a lot of people, and understanding that's what you go through. You can totally relate to the characters doing that.
I thought I was the only one who felt that way, but that's cool that you mentioned that, Laurie, because that was one thing I picked up on, was that this whole idea of her trying to reconcile her whole life after a severely traumatic incident that caused her life to spin out of control.
I mean, yeah. And they point out it's like she not only lost her brother as well as the love of her life in this within such a short span of time, and we're jumping in right after. I thought it was cool because the spoiler where this show starts is right before everybody returns from the snap, in Avengers Endgame, and so at that moment is portrayed in this from another angle. And particularly it's cool that they brought in characters like and they brought in Monica Rambeau, who was a character established as a little girl in the Captain Marvel movie, and you guys know the history of her. And seeing her come on is like, oh my gosh,
right?
Or they're setting her up too, And,
I mentioned that I was happy to see Darcy. I don't think she's in any other productions except the first Thor movie, but it was cool that they brought her back, because it's like you're reminded that all these characters are still existing in this Marvel universe, even though you might not see them all the time. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too, and plus she's great comic relief in there too. When the sitcom comedy wasn't working for you.
Exactly.
She had added a level of sarcasm that was really fun.
Right.
And also the Agnes, the neighbor, is like it's perfect each time, which each generation of sitcom, and then she turns out to be the character from I guess the Scarlet Witch. Excuse me, burning up with the heater in here. She turns out to be Agatha Harkness, who I didn't know anything about, and so I'm learning about. Okay, this is another Marvel character, evil character from the universe. So, but with a fun theme song. That was
Right.
very much like.
I don't
Oh,
know
that
if
was
you
the
guys want to
monsters.
get into any details about things that you noticed. I noticed a few things. I'm
Go
guessing you
ahead.
guys probably noticed them too. Like, uh, what was the deal early on? They showed her brother. Like, at one point early on, they showed her brother, and then they brought in Quicksilver. And so, uh, Quicksilver. I guess are those the same? Those are two different characters, right? Because they brought Quicksilver in from the 20th century
The
X-Men
X-Men.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
I think.
confusing because they
They
had her
they
brother.
they talk about that on there.
Right. Okay. Because I
Well, they
saw like.
kind of, yeah, they kind of reference. I forget where they
Yeah.
reference it towards the end, but what it was, well, because her brother was there, and the only reason, like, she stole Vision's body, so that's why she was able to reanimate him within her own, trauma fantasy world,
Right.
and but her brother had been killed back in what was it, Wachovia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sokovia, Sokovia. So she didn't have his body. So that can kind of explain why you have another one. But it's kind of a tease because I think a lot of fans were thinking, oh, they're going to finally merge the X-Men into the Marvel back into the Marvel universe, even though they were property owned by, was it 20th Century Fox, Adam? Even though Disney owns
Yeah.
20th Century Fox now, so everybody was speculating that's why they used that actor for that role and stuff.
Right.
But turns out, no. Spoiler alert, no, they are not doing that.
Right. They
Yeah.
were playing off of that a lot. There was the scene when they were all at the Halloween festivities, and
Mhm.
the twins. One of them was dressed like the brother, and the other was dressed like the 20th Century Fox uh, version of Quicksilver. So
Oh,
I
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, like
Yeah. They Easter eggs, a
yeah.
great tease. Who knows? So, um, any other thoughts on WandaVision? It,
I don't know if this is a dumb question, but I didn't quite understand why they said early in the show they said she's going to change the whole our reality if we don't stop her. She's going to affect everything. I didn't understand that. Like why? Like if she's in this protected environment, that she has a shield over. How is that going to affect the world we live in, or whatever, or the world that the other MCU characters live in? You guys understand what I'm saying?
I don't know if it's because she was able to expand that world too, but she wasn't able to expand it very successfully though, because there were some glitches with doing that. Or there's like kind of reading some stuff after the fact. It's like, I think if you knew more detail about the character Scarlet Witch and her history in the comic books, that might be a reference to that. In fact, I think the final scene, she's reading some book, well, she's studying some book of witchcraft, which can make her more powerful. She's learning how to properly be a witch. Uh,
Right.
and there's speculation she's outside some mountain. I don't know the details of it. I just read the stuff, so I'm no expert on this stuff at all. But so there's a lot of things like she's becoming more powerful.
Right. Okay. Without.
At the actual end of the series, so this could be launching her into some bigger role in
Right.
future Marvel properties, and she could be like a force to be reckoned with.
Ryan, do you know anything about it?
Well, yeah, she's going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie, and
Mhm.
both WandaVision and the next Spider-Man film are leading into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So all three, this show and those two movies, are all going to be interconnected. So
Okay.
setting the stage for that, and she's going to be in the Doctor Strange film.
Okay, which makes sense because they're both magical.
Yeah.
Right.
They're some of the more magical. They are the magic characters of this cinematic universe. So anyway, I love the show. I thought it was amazing. It was really, I will say, like the final episode was kind of a little bit of a letdown to me because they have to wrap everything up, and it was like, okay, we got to have some kind of like big action-y scene to, when I was, and that to me was a lot less interesting than, the characters going through their, emotional arcs. But then I'm always one who likes the emotional arcs of stuff, and rather, I mean, it just happened to be, okay, this is the typical generic, power fire. There was nothing really particularly special about it. So it was like, okay.
Sorry, just because I liked how they kept making a clear distinction between the witch and then the Scarlet Witch character. She kept saying, "I'm not a witch," or she said, "No one ever taught me any magic spells or anything like that." She like it was about where her power really came from. It was kind of like leading into, who is the Scarlet Witch? What is the source of her power? I think they were kind of touching.
Yeah,
on
they were trying to. Right.
But I thought that part was
that was too. But I think they took a lot of time with the action scenes rather than that stuff. It's just like, oh, we got to wrap it up. We got to have the big blowout.
Right.
So that's just, which I found, like that stuff what you're mentioning is interesting, but it wasn't like, it was just, the action just was a little generic. So it's just kind of like, it's not like the opening Falcon and Winter Soldier, which opens with this incredible action scene.
Right.
That's
and so, point. Yeah, like watching the two visions going after each other did kind of get a little old after a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but that's all.
No, I picked up on that. You're right about that.
I did want to mention there's a director. This is Matt Shackman directed this, but I think they had different writers for each episode. And I just bring that up because, Ryan, you sent the video of the woman who's directing Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I just watched that today. And I was surprised that she's directing all the episodes. So I think it's really interesting that Marvel is kind of giving these series like one director to kind of guide the whole thing, which is unusual for television. But it's kind of cool to me. So I think something that's like the story can stay consistent when you have one director, Star Wars, he's going to guide the whole storyline from beginning to end. So I thought it was really cool. And I agree with that lady. It's going to be great when there's not just women directors or Black directors. It's just directors, So we're getting there. We'll get there, though. So that's WandaVision. It's on Disney Plus. We've spoiled it for you, but catch it anyway. It's a very unique television show that honors television. Get out of here from off. And we out.
We out already?
Well, yeah. I do want to say one more thing, though.
Peter has something else out. We're not out yet.
With it going back on the sitcoms, that shows that, to me, it kind of showed that she did not know how to act or exist in a real relationship or something like that. So she went back to those sitcoms and started creating it. And as she grew, she went to the next year or the next decade.
Oh, as you're saying, yeah. Where
so
that's an interesting thing.
I just thought it was a totally interesting show.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. It's like as she evolved within the sitcom world, the sitcoms evolved and were sitcoms nowadays show a lot more emotional range than they did. Although, I don't know, Dick Van Dyke Show was pretty damn great in its day. Anyway, so we're doing stuff like that. But yeah, that's really cool. I never thought of that. Of that.
This show makes me want to go watch the Dick Van Dyke Show. I've never really watched the Dick Van Dyke Show.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it was a good show.
It's one of those shows that, it didn't talk down to its audience. It understood you were an intelligent adult person and it was silly too, but it was just a kind of a mature show, intelligent show too. So,
Yeah, I
which
like
back then,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
one of
so,
my favorite sitcoms, definitely.
yeah. I think that's one of the best aspects of those early episodes for WandaVision is they kind of make you want to go watch Brady Bunch and I Love Lucy and stuff again.
I think I've watched enough Brady Bunch of mine.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't need
That's
any
true.
more
I don't
Brady
think
Bunch.
I need to go back to Brady Bunch now.
That's true.
Or be
I
with.
definitely want to watch Dick Van Dyke and at least catch some episodes. And
Yeah,
watch
that's definitely a classic. Oh, yeah. Off side note, I just wanted to bring up Yaphet Kotto from Alien died. This is like totally unrelated.
Yeah, I saw
Played
that.
an alien, among other things, and I bring it up because when I was a kid, his sons went to summer camps with his son, and one of them broke my shoulder. So,
wow, I think you told me that before, but I forgot, Laurie.
I don't, not intentionally. I don't think I was. They had that parachute game you play, where holding a parachute and you lift it up, and everybody you have to run across it before they pull it down on you. I got pulled down on, and he came and jumped on me while I was underneath it, and it broke my shoulder. So,
wow.
So I was anyway.
I don't remember that story, but
rip Yaphet Kotto. I don't know. I never got an apology. I don't know. So, but my shoulder healed.
Right.
Whichever one. But anyway,
Yaphet Kotto is a personal hero of mine. Because I'm a fan of Aliens. So, I was sorry to hear that. But
it happened. I don't know. It's just like one of those weird stories from childhood.
Right. So everyone's good. Like Ryan, you don't have anything else to add? I thought you might have some interesting observations you might want to add.
Well, one thing that just occurred to me was I think it was mentioned earlier in the conversation that Wanda had maybe taken the body of Vision. The impression I had of that scene was that the director was lying about it, the director of S.W.O.R.D., because we later see, we see two things. We see that he has a Vision, that the body of Vision that they bring online, as he says, that becomes the gray or white Vision.
Right.
And then
that's in the comic books.
Yeah, there's a story in the comic books of that. I think it's in West Coast Avengers is the comic book title. Yeah. And then the other scene was in the second to last episode when we see Wanda and all of her traumatic back history, from the death of her parents to losing her brother, to losing Vision. That when we sort of see her create Vision, seems to kind of come from her soul or her consciousness.
You're right. Yeah, it does. It does.
And then what was interesting to me was in the final episode, we sort of see the Vision she created sort of implant. I don't know what he does, but he sort of touches Vision, the white Vision, and sort of brings back those memories.
He sends him his memories. He gives him his memories. Well, you're right. I forgot about that. But because the official bad guy in this accuses her of stealing Vision's body.
Right.
But you're right. It was kind of curious because there's a part where like Vision, not the white Vision, regular Vision, escapes out of the hex which is the world she created, and he starts dismantling. So like you said, he was a part of her imagination because he doesn't exist outside of that bubble. So that's a good point. Yeah. Thanks for the correction on that one. Yeah.
And what I think will be interesting is in the final post-credit Easter egg, we hear the voices of her two sons sort of saying, Mom, help, wherever they are. And yet it seemed like she had sort of manifested the children too. So it'll be interesting to see how they explain that. I know in the comics there was a thing of, I guess, the sons were a portion of the devil's soul or something. It had something to do with Mephisto, some sort of connection to the character Mephisto. I don't know if they're going to do that same thing here, but it'll see how it's explained down the road in the MCU.
That would be That would be dark.
Yeah.
That would be.
Our sons are the children of the devil.
I know. Like, what the
Like,
heck?
all right, Marvel. Okay, now. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see where they go with. Now I'm like invested in these characters. I've always liked Vision, and I thought he was a cool character when I first saw him in the event in Ultron and things like that. But yeah, and now I'm invested more in Wanda, and be interesting to see where they go. So WandaVision, Disney Plus. Are we out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We out.
We out. All right.